on. Moving on. Nebraska.
Oh, boy.
Quite the turnaround. I have high hopes for Nebraska.
I'm not feeling quite as optimistic, but we'll see.
What goes down, you'd assume has to come up, right? They've sucked for so long.
They have. I mean, historically they're one of the best teams in the country.
No, of course.
But recently, ever since they joined the Big Ten, really, they've not been near as competitive as what they were prior.
I agree.
And, say what you want, Scott Frost, he was not the coach they needed. I honestly never understood that hiring. He went from UCF.
He played at Nebraska.
He did play at Nebraska, but he went from coaching UCF, having 2 good years, on a team that wasn't playing traditional Power 5 programs day in, day out, and lost 1 bowl game. I think they barely won another one against like a bad team, though.
Well, either way, I mean, at the time it was the best hire. It just didn't turn out. So, but now you bring in.
Now you got a great hire.
Yeah.
Matt Rule, I am very high on. I think he's like a Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, there you go.
And a Nick Saban, where he went to the NFL, it didn't work out. Jim Harbaugh's a little different because he's kind of worked. He's made it work wherever he's gone. But Nick Saban specifically, Nick went to the NFL, it did not work out. Went back to Alabama, and he has owned college football for 2 decades. Maybe 3.
And he will for much longer, I think, and then hand the torch off to somebody else.
Yeah, and I agree. But Matt Rule, I definitely see kind of as a Nick Saban type, where it didn't work. He did pretty good in college when he first coached in college. Tried going to the NFL, making that work. Didn't work. Now he's coming back to college. I see him turn this program around very quickly. I think with talking about our first episode about the expansion, with the recruiting that I think Nebraska is going to be able to do now, I truthfully believe Nebraska will probably be in the same tier as Penn State in 2 years.
Yeah, that's a definitely,
maybe 3.
Yeah, I would say that's a big, but it's definitely possible. For this year, though, like every year, they do well in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
it seems like every sport, they bring in all these guys. You throw a good team on paper on the field, but it just never can mesh. Yeah. So it makes me question, can they establish a program and a culture that's built around winning? And what is Nebraska football, I think, is the biggest question going into the year. You got a new defensive coordinator. He's going to switch the system up. He's going with a 3-5. So how's that going to go?
I think that will go great for them. Nebraska is historically, over their time kind of in the Big Ten, they've never really had great defensive lines. Now I think
Ndamukong Suh, but was that before?
Huh?
Ndamukong Suh, like that era, would that have been pre-Big Ten or right at the beginning?
I think right at the beginning. I think that would have been right at the beginning. But even that one, like, it was Ndamukong Suh, and that was like it.
No, yeah, that's fair.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they might have one good defensive lineman, but they don't have depth, and they don't, especially right now, they don't have depth at the defensive lineman. I don't think they have 300-pounders. I could be wrong.
No, and we could.
That would be something to look up, but.
Yeah. Well, looking also at their offensive linemen, they got a lot of questions. You're bringing in a bunch of new guys again.
Yep. They lost a couple. They lost some people to Michigan too on their defense. We got their linebacker from last year, who is, I think, their only player that was with like a second string Big Ten player last year.
Yeah. Shoot, that was the wrong one. All right, let's roll through real quick.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Still not seeing any 300s.
Well, because
there's one.
Defensive lineman. They got some big boys.
Okay, they got a couple.
They got some big boys.
They got a 300 on the dot and a 320 and a 310. Okay.
Which I wouldn't even base off that though. Like Nebraska, I think they'll be a lot more competitive this year, and that kind of does carry over into at least my preview. I think they get to a bowl game for the first time in a while. You don't. You have them.
Not this year. I think
that's fair.
I think in a couple years they'll be fine, but not this year. Matt Rule, he's got a lot. It's the problem I had with Matt Rule coming in and this Nebraska nonsense. They waited too long.
Yeah,
they waited till after the transfer portal was already pretty much set in stone for him to get great recruits for his type of recruits that he wants to implement in his system. And it was too late to where he lost out on the 2023 recruits, and he's pretty much lost out on all 2024 recruits. Unless they can somehow flip some magically.
They'll probably do well in the transfer portal.
They might do well in the transfer. They'll do really well this year in the transfer portal for what he wants to do.
Yeah. So big games for Nebraska, I would say. Definitely the one at Illinois. I have them winning, you have them losing. That's a divisional game.
Yeah.
That's big. Moving on to Purdue, that's a big one. We got them losing. Michigan State.
Yeah.
You like Michigan State there?
I like Michigan State on that one. Personally.
They got a kind of a tough draw. Maryland's no slouch. I think they give them fits. They ain't beating Wisconsin, but I had them beating Iowa. And again, at home, anything can happen in that rivalry game. Iowa's been very successful as of late, except for last year, which makes me think, hopefully we don't see any trends go the other way.
I think an interesting game here that you brushed over was week 2, Colorado.
It is. I think you might get memed for this one. Colorado is not good.
You say that, but I have heard from several people, Joel Klatt, Urban Meyer.
He went to Colorado.
Joel went to Colorado, but Urban didn't.
Well, also,
but there's been a lot of analysts. Colorado is not deep, so if they get hurt, they're screwed. But if they can keep those players healthy, they are going to be a very good football team. Urban Myers even said this. He goes, I didn't know what to expect when I went to talk to Dion and watch their practices through spring ball. He goes, but Dion has hired an exceptionally great coaching staff and assistant coaches. And that's what it comes down to. Like you were talking about Nebraska and how they always had good transfer portals and even sometimes recruiting classes, but they can never make it great on the field.
Yeah.
That comes down to the assistant coaches and the coaches and teaching the players how to be in the right positions at the right time. And it sounds like Dion has excelled at getting great people around him quick.
Yeah, we'll see. Everyone's hyping him up, but all the books have him at 3.5 over/under wins, so they know something that everyone else doesn't. If money's involved, I'm gonna guess they're gonna roll with what the trends are saying is my big thing.
I need to go put $100 bet on Colorado to have more than 3.5 wins.
That's exactly what they want you to do. That's why they put it there.
I should do it.
Hey, put your money where your mouth is, Cordell.
I will definitely put my money where my mouth is on those.
All right. So that was Nebraska. So again, yeah, you had them finishing kind of low.
Yeah, I had them at 3-9, 1-8 in conference. You had them at 7-5, 4-5 in conference.
Which I think that's very fair. I could see 6-6.
Yeah, I think you could probably say the same thing. You could also probably see 3-9.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what's crazy about this team.
Yeah, it's very.
I wouldn't put it past them too.
Nebraska's very interesting. Very interesting team this year. They really don't have in the Big Ten. They don't really have that tough of a schedule because they don't play really great East teams. They play Maryland.
I'll say, in tough Michigan draw. State, they got to get a draw. They don't have to play Penn State. They don't have to play Michigan, Ohio State. They do play Michigan.
Oh, they do play Michigan,
and they'll get
yeah, they'll get.
So I mean, they got a meh,
Okay, that's yeah.
But yeah, so ceiling for them, I would say 7.
7-5. 7-5.
I got them at their ceiling. You got them probably at their basement.
Yeah, 3-9.
And I don't. Yeah, it's one.
I think that's where Matt Rule has to start and build from there.
Agreed, 100%. So another team. Speaking of the Maryland